No, sorry. So greetings and welcome to this session today. On Sundays, of course, we usually review the book Defeating Dictators by Dr. George Aiti. But today being the update for Marcus Garvey, I think we're just here to reflect on some of his work, some of the wisdom we've interacted from Marcus Garvey, what we remember him about, and what message did he have for us, and how relevant that message is for us today. So we are just going to share experience with each other. How have you interacted with Marcus Garvey? When did you know about him? What work do you remember about him? The activity, the improvement, what he proposed in that direction. So it's going to be an open conversation. So those who will be reviewing this audio or this recording on our YouTube channel anytime, please feel free to also share your comments with us. Once again, feel most welcome. This is a Pan-African Reading Club. And what we do is just the review of Defeating Dr. George Aiti's book for now. But today is a special day for Marcus Garvey. And as I've said, we'll just open up the floor for members to start by telling us, what do you remember about Marcus Garvey? So greetings to you, Brother Anunnaki, Sister Amma, Sir Windhoek, and I believe other members will be joining us. We started a bit way too late, but we believe other members will be joining us. I know there was a meeting ongoing again on the same Marcus Garvey in various Pan-African platforms, but we will continue, and those who will join us will follow us or will find out as we move along. So yes, let me just start off by Sir Windhoek. Let me start off with you. Just tell us all about Marcus Garvey, you know, anything or everything you know about Marcus Garvey.
All I can tell is like he once docked in Namibia at Walvis. That's what I heard. And he met some of the leaders of those days. But the message that he was trying to put across Africa for Africans in the diaspora to go back to Africa, my leaders at that time could not grasp, I think, what he was saying. What they were wondering was they cannot be in the West, in the lands of milk and honey, and want to return to Africa. But the unity and the consciousness that he was trying to foster across the globe for Africans to reach and they belong as a unit in Africa was immense and unparalleled. And in our lifetime, we haven't, I for one, haven't seen an equal of a Marcus Garvey in his own right. From the plantations around 1932, but to have taken that fight upon his shoulders without fear or favor, he must have been honed and cut from another tree, from a tree that we do not know, from a tree that we will not see, from a tree that we might only be dreaming to have been honed from. His bravado, his courage, his inspiration has left a mark across the globe in the heart of every living and unborn African. I rest.
Thank you, Sir Windhoek, for being very brief. But I think one thing you've said, the call for Marcus Garvey for Africans for Africa. It was in that particular moment appearing to be actually a repatriation call. You know that he went extra mile to try his best to ensure that Africans could come back to Africa. Now, based on that gospel that Marcus Garvey was pushing then, do you think, as I know you might not be in the diaspora, but do you think the Africans in diaspora are ready to come back to Africa, as Marcus Garvey talked about? And do you think the Africans are also ready, or the governments or the people of Africa are ready to actually welcome and receive their Africans in the diaspora? What do you think in regards to that?
Yes, Africans will be ready. Africans in the diaspora will be ready to come to Africa once the atmosphere has straightened itself out. I mean, just like I said, another Marcus Garvey has not been born yet, as far as I'm concerned. So how would diasporians belonging so desperately to return to Africa if they know that the atmosphere would be hostile, would not be receptive? Because all African leaders that we have today are puppets of the West, and the West are not pro the return of diasporans, because that goes hand in hand with the repatriation of the knowledge, the experience, and the education that they have. And should it happen, the West in particular will starve intellectually. It's going to die intellectually. African leaders are doing, not making the atmosphere conducive for the diasporans. Have I been an African that for every 5 diasporans that come to Namibia, 4 are already employed, 4 are rehabilitated, 4 are already integrated in the system. But this hasn't been happening, and it's maybe just going to happen after 2063. So there's no incentive per se from the African continent itself because of the lack of political willpower from the leaders that are in power. Thank you.
Thank you, Sawinda. And I know other countries have tried repatriation. Based on the experience on that line, still Sawinda. Ghana tried the year of repatriation. The Burkina Faso, I think, there's a team that went there to set up office for Panafrican. There are Africans who have come back to the continent to stay back in the continent, so many of them. But again, do you think, what should we do actually to attain, as much as another Marcus Garvey has not been born, what can actually be done to realize that dream of Africa for Africa, as Marcus Garvey thought about it? Just from your side, Mr. what do you think?
It should be enshrined on every paper that Africans in the diaspora should return now, not tomorrow, now. And everything, all services that are needed will be readily available. So starting from the situation as it is, the Constitution of Kenya should read, people returning from the diaspora will get preferential, specifically targeted treatment in order to integrate them, to welcome them, and to integrate them. And that is going to put everybody at ease that it is not only in the mind of somebody, but it is reduced to paper, and somebody, somehow, somewhere. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to engage further on that, but just finally, very final, I know you'll not like to speak much. In that process of Africans for Africa, or the process of Africans repatriating to Africa, you've seen they're being subjected to, so I don't know, the DNA test, and somebody will now come out and clearly say, oh, I found my DNA is connected to Nigeria, to Ghana. Do you think that element of subjecting Africans outside Africa, first of all, for a DNA test to identify where their ancestors came from? And do you think, the second thing, do you think that process is necessary or right? And second thing, this idea of that now the Africans, the diaspora, want to look for a country where they belong to. When Marcus said Africa for Africans, Marcus Garvey never said Kenya for Africans, Uganda, Tanzania. He said they all Africans for Africans. Do you think the all African countries as it is should just accept Africans from the diaspora without them saying that, okay, now my root is Zimbabwe, let me go to Zimbabwe? Because in Marcus Garvey's mind, when you talk Africa for Africa, he never wanted to see those colonial borders in his mind. He was seeing the Africa as a whole, and that all Africans, either in diaspora, belong to Africa as a whole. What do you think about
that? Africans in the diaspora should descend on Africa on every corner they so wish. The subjection to DNA testing and verification is another discrimination. The individual's decision and choice should be respected. DNA. We all sprang from one cell, same cell. Whether life has started in Kenya, whether African life has started in Namibia, that doesn't matter. We started together, we migrated together, and everybody who's coming from the diaspora should have the choice by themselves. And these are some of the petty issues that would not make diasporans to want to come to Africa as in yesterday, because they also have got their own choices based on their researches, based on their experiences, and this should be free to them to descend onto on any corner that they want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sawino, for that. Sister Amma, what do you remember Marcus Garvey for? All you know about Marcus Garvey, or maybe you love about him, all you remember him about, anything about Marcus Garvey for you, Sister Amma?
Hello to everybody and good evening. Well, one thing I will share about Marcus Garvey is that he's actually buried in, he actually died, in London, if I'm remembering correctly. He lived some of his years in London. He built to date the largest organization of Africans that we've had to date, which included Africans from many different places and backgrounds. Yeah, and I think when he talked about Africa for Africans at home and abroad, it wasn't just in terms of, I think part of that was not necessarily just in terms of Africans physically returning to Africa, because of course there's always a choice, but also about making Africa so robust that there was a pride in Africa, and that Africa would, a robust, strong, cohesive Africa would benefit Africans wherever they live in the world, which is what you see of other nations. That, for instance, there's Americans all over the world, but they could draw on the strength of America, the strength of the dollar, etc., etc. I think one of the things we should remember, though, and I think sometimes all of us need to do more depth research and analysis, because actually Africans have been returning to Africa since the first days of Africans being taken out of Africa. So, for instance, I'll just give a couple of examples. Nigeria has a large community of Africans who returned from Brazil. Sierra Leone, of course, the capital Freetown, was named based on Africans returning from various parts of the diaspora, those who have been freed from slavery, and they're what we today call the Creole in Sierra Leone. And some of them were able to trace their ancestry back to different parts of the continent. So some came in through Sierra Leone, returned to Nigeria, Angola, etc., etc., Congo. And then, of course, you've got Liberia, which again had and has a community of Africans who returned, not just from the United States, but in particular, the United States is highlighted. Now, why I say we should do more study and research on it, because there are benefits of Africans returning, but there have also been challenges. I'll use that word. And I'm saying this as somebody who was born in the diaspora. One of the other things I have to say is that Africans in the diaspora are not homogeneous. We have all kinds of different histories that have led us to be born in the diaspora. But one thing, you know, and me, I'm very clear on this. I'll be quite clear, just as there are some Africans in Africa who do not have the best interests of Africa at heart, there are some Africans in the diaspora who do not have the best interests of Africa at heart. So we should be clear on that. B, Africa's returning to Africa should be to build and develop Africa for the benefit of all, including those who are currently living, born in, resident in, have lived in Africa. Because what we don't want is, as we currently have, a different form of neo-colonialism. We don't want Africans coming from the diaspora to exploit the Africans who are currently living in Africa. Just like what we currently have is Africans born and living in Africa who are exploiting their fellow Africans. We don't want that. So I just think that we have to be quite nuanced about what we say. And then the last thing I will say about Marcus Garvey is he married twice, and his first wife, Amy Ashwood, both of his wives were politically active. His first wife, Amy Ashwood Garvey, actually lived for a while in Liberia, was active in the 1945. So by this time, Garvey had died. The 1945 Pan-African Congress in which happened in Manchester in England. She lived in Liberia, visited Ghana, I think visited Nigeria as well, maybe a few other countries. So it would be good to research individually and collectively and understand more about the contribution of both of Garvey's wives, but also others who were part of the UNIA. That's my contribution for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sister. I think you've raised something very important on the misunderstanding of the word Africa for African. And he said Africa for Africans in African diaspora. And the element of what you have said about what Garvey said in regards to whether all Africans are actually necessary to come back to Africa. And I remember he said a quote that I can remember, that I have no desire to take all Black people back to Africa. There are Blacks who are no good here and will likewise no good there. He was very clear on that.
Exactly.
And Brother Pigeon?
Yes, Pavindo.
Identifying a country or a region where people from diaspora should go, that should never happen, because first and foremost, it will lead to stigmatization. And that region will be known for very many things, very many names. The region of the so-and-so, the country of so-and-so. So Africans should just come to Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. It could be quite interesting, actually, if Marcus and the ship, the Starline, it will be actually quite interesting to see if Marcus was to come with the Starline. Where will he have landed? Probably the people in the ship, because At the time I was talking about this, already Africa was partitioned. How will they have landed? Where will they have landed? And how will they have moved across the space?
So sorry to interrupt, but his plans were, and he had links, and the UNIA had quite strong links with Liberia. The plans were to particularly so I think we also have to remember that Marcus Garvey was in a context. So Marcus Garvey was not the first person to talk about, and I will always emphasize this, Africans returning to Africa. And Africans had returned to Africa before the UNIA was formed. That's why I say people should study the history of Liberia in particular. Liberia, Sierra Leone, Freetown. And the UNIA had plans to, and Marcus Garvey, I'll look for it, there's a picture, which actually I don't particularly like this picture, of UNIA delegates in Liberia. And I don't like it because of the positioning of those Africans who had come as part of the UNIA compared to the Africans who were living in the country at the time. Because for me, we do not need our fellow Africans to come in and start exploiting Africans who are already there. I'm absolutely uncategorically clear about that. I don't care. You're coming to integrate and you're coming to build and develop wherever you land in Africa for the benefit of those who are already there, as well as those who return. But there were links. I'll try and find some information. The UNIA in particular was looking towards Liberia initially because there was already a flow of Africans going into Liberia. But I'll look for something now so that I can share it in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to share one of his book here called The Message to the People. And you could tell who Marcus was. Just look at even the start of that message. It says, you must never stop learning. Never stop learning. And the world's greatest men and women were people who educated themselves outside of the university. Not in the university to be professors, PhD and the rest, outside the university. With all the knowledge that the university gives, you have the opportunity of doing the same with the university, then does read and study. One must never stop reading. Read everything that you can read that is of standard knowledge. Don't waste time reading trashy literature. This is to say, don't pay attention to the 10 science novels, Wild West stories, and cheap sentimental books. But where there is a good plot and a good story in the form of a novel, read it. It is necessary to read it for purposes of getting information on human nature. The idea is that personal experiences is not enough for a human to get all useful knowledge of life because the individual's life is too short, so we must feed on the experience of others. The literature we read should include the autobiography of men and women who have accomplished greatness in their particular line. Whenever you can buy these books and own them, whilst you are reading them, make pencils or pen notes on the striking sentences and paragraphs that you should like to remember, so that when you have to refer to the book of any thought that you like to refresh on your mind, you will not have to read over the whole book. Just a bit of his knowledge. Just a bit of what Marcus was. Jero Anunnaki, can you share with us what you remember Marcus Garvey with? Raspala?
If the answer not today. Yeah. I'll just read what I have here. The early life and education. Marcus Garvey was born into a working-class Jamaican family. His father was a stonemason, and his mother was a domestic worker. He was mostly self-educated due to financial struggles, but read extensively in his youth. worked as a printer's apprentice before becoming involved in labor and political activism. He formed the UNIA, which is the Universal Negro Improvement Association, 1914, Jamaica, and later moved its headquarters to Harlem, New York, 1916. He established the Black Star Line and economic empowerment. The UNIA had millions of members worldwide at its peak, making it the largest black political organization in history at the time. He founded the Black Star Line in 1919, a shipping company owned and operated by black people, intended to facilitate trade and migration among the African diaspora. He sold stock to every black citizens, raising significant funds, but later faced mismanagement and accusations of fraud. The United States government, particularly J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, targeted Garvey, leading to his conviction in 1923 for mail fraud, of which many believe the charges were politically motivated. Back to Africa and his Liberia plan, Garvey's vision included repatriating African descendants to Liberia to build a strong and self-governing nation. The plan collapsed due to pressure of European colonial powers and opposition from Liberia's government influenced by US and Britain. Conflicts with other black leaders. Du Bois, NAWCP, clashed with Garvey, calling him a dangerous demagogue and criticizing his separatist views. Garvey, in return, accused Du Bois and other integrationalists of seeking approval from the white elites. The FBI COINTELPRO tactics were later used against Garvey, similar to how they targeted Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Exile, decline, and death. After prison of 1925 to 1927, Garvey was deported to Jamaica but never regained his earlier influence. He moved to London in 1935, where he continued writing and advocating for black liberation until his death in 1940, some say due to a stroke. Buried in London, and his remains were later moved to Jamaica's National Heroes Park in 1964. His major quotes that I love is one that says, "A people without the knowledge of their past, history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. Liberate the minds of the men, and you ultimately liberate the bodies of men." His lasting legacy is 1. The civil rights and black nationalism. He inspired Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Kwame Nkrumah, and the Nation of Islam. His symbols were the red, black, and green flag. The UNIA colors became Pan-African symbols. He is also recognized as a Jamaican national hero, officially declared in 1964. His face still appears on the Jamaican $20 coin and $1 note. He also, Garvey in the Rastafari movement, is also seen as a prophet. His call for an African king led many to view Haile Selassie, Ethiopia's emperor, as the Masonic figure. And the last point is the controversies and criticisms where Garvey's rejection of racial integration was seen as radical and divisive. The fraud case, where supporters argue he was framed. Critics say poor management doomed the Black Star Line. And lastly, his views on race and mixing. At times, he expressed controversial opinions, racial purity, expressing that blacks must marry blacks and whites must marry whites. So yeah, I'll end there on Marcus Garvey. That's what I have. Thank you, family.
Thank you, Elder. Oh, no, now you become an elder. Yeah, thank you, Elder General Anunnaki. You know, sometimes people tend to believe that being an elder is out of whether you are old, but sometimes some level of wisdom can make you an elder. Because being an elder is also associated with wisdom. So thank you for reminding us about Marcus Garvey history a bit. And as I'm still reading to his message, because this is the message Garvey left to the people. And the people is us. Garvey said, still under reading, he said that, and I've highlighted it. In reading books written by the white authors of whatever kind, be aware of the fact that they are not written for your particular benefit or for the benefit of your race. They always write from their own point of view and only in the interest of their own race. Never swallow wholly what the white man writes or says without first critically analyzing it and investigating it. The white man's trick is to deceive other people for his own benefit and profit. Always be on your guard against him in whatever he does or says. Never take chances with him. Who can like to comment on that? I think Marcus was very straightforward in this one. Anybody who feels to speak to that, but that is the message of Marcus to us. As we continue, we'll be getting to Brother Simon Chibi. Brother Simon Chibi, you can come in to share with us what you think about Marcus. But if you want to comment on some of the highlights that will be pointing at this book, which was the message to the people by Marcus Garvey, feel free to engage some of his thoughts to us, some of this message to us. Brother Simon, One Map Africa. It seems Simon has dropped off. Anybody would like to comment on those words that Marcus said here? Any person? So no one want to say that. But I think Marcus was very clear. We have seen for several times our engagement with the West, especially the whites, not all of them. But I think we have been taking chances, which Marcus Garvey warned us against. Never take chances with them. And guard against whatever he says or does. Is this really true to our experience as a people of Africa? What do you think about this? Sir Window, General or Sister Ama, what do you think about this particular message that told us that we must never take chances? Hello, can any of you hear me?
Yes, my brother. Can you repeat the question?
Now I'm reading the highlighted paragraph that Marcus told us, but his message was very clear that always we must guard against whatever white man says to us or whatever he does. And we should never take chances with the white man. What do you think?
Yes, that's true, my brother. I agree 100% with that. It's the same thing they're doing here in South Africa. We thought the white people really were sincere about the democracy and the rainbow nation, blah, blah, blah. Look now, the white people, the Afrikaners, just built a university that is reserved for white people only. What is that? So, yeah, Marcus Garvey was really right. You can't trust the white man.
Windhoek, what do you think about that message? Windhoek. And I think of interest to you, Windhoek, will be his message to us on the leadership. And Marcus was very clear on the leadership. He said, a leader must have personality. Let me highlight what he said. This one. Marcus said that a leader must have a personality. He must be clean-cut in his appearance so that he is not criticized. And tidy leader is always a failure. He must be neatly dressed, and his general appearance must be clean and presentable, because people are supposed to follow him in his manner, in his behavior, and in general conduct. A leader's hair should be always kept. His tooth must be in perfect order, of people will not criticize him for his unkempt hair or his bad tooth. His shoes and other garments must always be clean. If you look ragged, people will not trust you. They will critically say he has no clothing. If the shoes are very poor, and it's logical that whatever money he gets hold of, he will use it for himself rather than for the purpose for which he makes this appeal. Never show your personality, your personal poverty to those you lead. They will never trust you. This does not mean that you should never reveal the poverty of the cause you represent, because that cause is your cause and the people's cause, in which both of you are interested. Never tell lies to people you lead. Sooner or later, they will find out that, and then your career will come to an abrupt end. No man ever trusts a person a second time whom he disbelieves once and disapproves of his belief. In all circumstances, a leader must carry himself with dignity. He must not snob, but he must maintain his pride. Windhoek, what do you think about that message on leadership?
Very true. A leader must have a character. A leader must have a personality. A leader must be a role model. People should look up to you and emulate every step that you take. And above all, a leader must have something upstairs, apart from having a direction that he would want people to follow. So whatever you see in a leader should reflect back in you, because the influence of a leader is to influence people to follow his philosophy and to follow his ideology. And the ideology and philosophy must be well articulated and well expressed. And then you have led the people. You must always lead from the front, and the people must follow what they see. I thank you.
Thank you. I'll read the second part on this paragraph. It says that a leader must not be extravagant. He must not be flashy in the sense of being over 40. People will not think of you serious. Always make your followers believe you are serious. You can be serious without being sour. Always think before you speak or act. Don't write or speak just to hear yourself. Speak or write when you have something to say, and never touch anything by way of leadership that you do not know about, because somebody who knows about it will have a joke at your expense. A leader must always have something to say, otherwise he forfeits his leadership, and someone else will have something to say, will supplant it. Sister Amma, what do you think about that? Sister Amma?
Yeah, sorry, I had to take myself off mute. I just want to go back to a sentence which came from the first section you read, which was tell no lies, because I think that is very important. And in fact, it reflects what another one of our leaders, Amilcar Cabral, said about tell no lies, claim no easy victories. That was Amilcar Cabral. Because above all else, what a leader, he or she, I'm emphasizing that women can be leaders as well, needs to build an organic relationship of trust with the people who they are leading. And there is this phrase called servant leader. And a leader also needs to have a good dose of humility to tamper out, because one of the weaknesses of some of the leadership we see in our present situation is an overdose of arrogance. I will use that term. But the humility is because a leader is there to lead the people, to guide the people into organizing themselves and their environment to make their lives better. That's the role of a leader. A leader is not there to enrich his or herself, to gain more benefits than the people, to live an extravagant life. And in that second bit which you read, Garvey warns against being over extravagant. A leader is there to really to guide and guard the interests of the people. But unfortunately, we have people in leadership at this point in time, and their main focus is on what they can gain for themselves during their period of leadership and beyond, themselves and maybe their immediate family and groups, etc., etc. So I think that is very important. And leadership is something that we really need to examine, and what we expect of leaders, and who we believe can be and shows leadership qualities. Because you mentioned earlier on about where Garvey talked about continuous, what I use the term continuous education. And sometimes those who present themselves as being the most educated, i.e. they got a degree or whatever from here, are not the most educated and do not make the best leaders. So there's a whole thing about what type of education and learning we want to see in our leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. We are still engaging the message of Marcus to us as a people. I think this is the best way we can remember him, by reflecting on his message to us. Some can remember him by saying his contribution, but I think it will not be so useful if you only remember his contribution and don't remember his message. And his message must always remind us on what he said. Now, Marcus was very controversial. He talked about God. And I'll also engage General on this. And he said, there's a God, and we believe in him. He is not a person, not a physical being. He is a spirit, and he is universal intelligence. Never denied that there's a God. God, being universal intelligence, created the universe out of that intelligence. It is intelligence that creates. Man is a part of the creation. So universal intelligence and man created in the image and likeness of God only by intelligence. It is the intelligence of a man that is like God. But man's intelligence is only unitary particle of God's universal intelligence. And God, out of his universal intelligence, made matter, and he made the mind. That matter is made by God, and man is a matter as well as mind. Therefore, man must be in the image of God, because nothing could exist without God. And as God made the universe out of universal knowledge or intelligence. So man in his unitary knowledge or intelligence can make a typewriter, an automobile, a chair, but he cannot make the universe because his unitary intelligence is not as much as great as universal intelligence. And all unitary intelligence of the universes goes to make God, who is an embodiment of all intelligence. So man can be as great as God because he is only a unit of God, and God is the whole. Therefore, no man can measure God nor ask God questions because he is not as intelligent as God, and therefore he cannot understand God. Therefore, it is presumptuous when man questions God from his limited unitary intelligence. Man never dies, and nothing dies. Man is made out of body and spirit. The spirit is God, it is intelligence. The body of a man is matter. It changes from living matter into the man to other matter in the soil. It's always the same matter. It doesn't die in the sense of how we understand it. It changes. When man sleeps and passes away in the flesh, he goes to earth that lives on, out of which other men and things are formed. All matter is related. So, other men and things are formed. All matter is related. So, man is related to the earth, and earth is related to man. Raspala, what can you comment on that thoughts of Marcus Garvey on God and man? It's a heavy thought. General Anaki? General, please unmute yourself. Hello, General, can you hear me? Okay. Anybody want to comment on that thought of Marcus on God and the man? General, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, give thanks, Father. So I was just trying to unmute. Yeah, I think Garvey in his earlier times was trying to explain the phenomena of our melanin and where our essence as black men come from, and the fact that our essence and the essence that God, the energy used to create intelligence, life, matter on earth and in the universe. You find out that we as black men are as close to that intelligence as any other organism that has been created by nature. And so in that understanding, he knew that all men on earth originate from the black man. So that being the case, so scientifically, our essence is that essence of that of the creator. And the essence of the recessive genes, which is the genes that come from the dominant genes, is that of the created. So I think Marcus Garvey already knew that concept. That is why even he advocated for blacks in the world to look upon the coming of the crowning of the King of Kings in Ethiopia, 1930, 5th of November. I think he was trying to, even though he was not direct, as much as we have the information now to be that direct, he alluded to that fulfillment, which is the fulfillment of the coming of God in the flesh. So that summarizes why we Rastafarians, we consider Marcus Garvey not just to be a Pan-African, but to be the black prophet of the black people. So yeah, I think that's my understanding of why Garvey said that God and the essence created matter, and that God his spirit cannot be destroyed, because energy in itself, in essence, cannot be destroyed, but can be converted into different forms. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody who wants to comment on that, Marcus, God and man, before we look at what Marcus said on the character? Anybody? Okay. Let's look at the message of Marcus in regards to character. Marcus says, men and women who want to be of use to themselves and humanity must have good character. Good character means the demonstration of kind of behavior that meets the moral precepts of a civilization. The standard that is laid down by the society of the time in which you live and which forms a part of and guides that every character. If you do not live up to these standards, in the highest sense, you will not be respected by the society. Your mission in the society for useful work will fall to pieces. The greatest prop to character is honesty. Honesty is the best policy. Let no one believe that you are dishonest. If they believe you are dishonest, you are doomed. You will never be able to rise to a position of respect and trust except by some mere accident. You must live so clean that everybody can see the cleanness of your life. Never let people believe that you are a liar. But the contrary, let them believe that you always speak the truth and live up to it. Papa. Any conduct that your community or society condemns, be careful not to violate the rule of the law, because you lose respect from your community. Never borrow money unless you intend to pay it back. Pay it back as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
If you give excuses when you should be paying, those you are obligated will think you are a trickster. Even though you subsequently pay them, they will be loath to trust you a second time. Even if you have to make sacrifices, pay your debt. Because when you don't pay your debt, people talk about it, and sooner or later, everybody in the community knows about it, and you are ruined. It's a good policy to keep a good and honorable name. It's good credit. People will trust you on a good name. They will ask for the cash right on the spot and count it to the last something in your name if your name is bad. People who trust you will almost take money from you without counting it. When you have lost that much confidence, you are marked object, and you may as well move from that town or the city or community to start a fresh life somewhere else where nobody knows you, where you practice to a higher principle and retrieve your name. Anybody want to comment on that? I think it's a very good message there to us. Anybody? Okay, Sisama? Sisama, do you have any comment on that message? Very clear message, but very strong message. Very hard to be
Very
honest.
It's very clear, very strong, quite difficult to live up to. But I mean, again, it just underpins what he said earlier about the importance of building up trust through respect and dignity, that as a leader you have to exemplify what you expect people to be. That's the bottom line. So yeah, it's a very good, very strong, clear guidelines for what those who want to assume or who are chosen to be in leadership positions need to live up to.
Yeah, Sister Ama, they are very strong, very straight, but sometimes very hard to live up with. But that is his message.
Yes,
Salindo,
Eugene.
yeah, what do you think about that message?
Unlike our leaders who are called honorables and your excellencies and your whatever, but who do not live up to their calling and titles. A certain minister will be called an honorable whoever, honorable minister of health and social services, instead of being called honorable of theft or honorable of dishonesty. Our leaders don't live by their titles and their positions. They are the most wicked and they are the most crooked. Yet we follow them while Marcus Garvey is saying you must exemplify what the people, what you expect from the people. That contrast, is it through coercion that we follow what we don't long for? Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a message I won't forget here. Message from Never Fall in Love. I'm not discouraging love, but Marcus did not leave the lovers out. Marcus said, never fall in love to the point of losing control of yourself. If you do, you'll become somebody else's slave. And that experience will surely take advantage of you and cause you to lose your best character. Never love anybody for companionship unless that person has the majority of the qualities that you like and appreciate. Never love a person more of his or her physical appearance or personality. First, investigate the character, disposition, temperament, behavior, and thoughts of the person. And when you find in that person, along with good physical appearance, such as you like, all the qualities or as many of them as possible will tend to satisfy you and make you happy through lifetime, then love that person. But never love anyone better than yourself, because you are responsible to God for yourself. Only love God better than yourself. Do not believe that anybody is love you honestly, in true sense of the word. Generally, it is something you have or something they can get from you as a reason why they love you or pretend to love you. When that something fails, you generally find that you were never loved, and which is always too late. Don't put your absolute divine trust in human love, because man is bad as obstacle to change. Very interesting. So when you love one for the qualities you think that person possesses, and those qualities are not fully developed, help that person to develop them for your own happiness. What do you think about that? Another strong message. Anybody would like to comment on that?
I would rather keep quiet. Otherwise, if there are people who will be listening, danger will come.
I understand you, brother. Okay. Who is ready to speak on this? Or should we all pass there? It's a very sensitive topic, but it's okay. So let's look at something else on what message Marcus has for us. And Marcus talk about a social system. Marcus said that society is an organization of man to safeguard and protect his own interests. When society is organized and is made evident by regulations, rules, and laws, every member of that society must obey the said rules, regulations, and laws. And therefore, always live up to the organized system of the society, of which you form a part. The only alternative to this is rebellion. You should never join rebellious movement against society, except when there's a good reason and a justification for it. Society is intended to maintain the greatest good or for the greatest number. And that is always the uppermost, so that it throughout you may have to reform. Any society must be calculated to bring about the greatest good for the greatest number, and you must obey its law. Otherwise, you are an evil genius living in the middle of that society. And that society will seek to destroy you or compel you to obey its rules, regulations, and laws. You cannot live by yourself in a society. You must live upon the goodwill of your fellow. Therefore, in that society, you must respect everything that tends to be good to all. Any comment on that? Anybody want to comment on the organization of the society and the message Marcus has for us? General Nunaki, do you have any comment on that? About the society? General?
Yes, my Lord, give thanks. Yeah, this is correct, my Lord, as you just alluded. I think we once spoke about this in the chapter 3 of that book. I forgot that book we used to read Sunday. I think dictators, something about dictators. Yeah, we spoke about this thing that society is basically designed to cater for that specific group of people, if I can put it in that aspect. So, talking about Pan-Africanism and Garvey, his society that he was trying to bring about and what his aspirations are trying to assist us as Africans in the world is so that we can have an organization of Pan-Africanism that can outlive our individual capacity and cater for the collective consciousness of all blacks. To always keep it in mind that as we are here now, we have a greater vision than what we have individually in our minds. And that greater vision is Africa for Africans. And in that Africa for Africans, a society where the black men and black women are independent from other races in the world. See, so that society, that vision of a black society for Garvey, I think is the same vision I spoke about in that chapter 3 book about the ancient society, the Anunnaki belt. Thank you.
Thank you, General Nunaki. I'll just tie it closely to the politics. We are almost towards the end of reviewing some of the messages Marcus left for us. In politics, Marcus says that politics is the science of government that protects those human rights that are not protected by law. Law is already established. Politics add to the laws or change the laws. You should play politics to get good government. The state, the nation, or the community in which you live directly is always governed by politicians or statesmen. You should know them and become well acquainted with them for your own good. You need them in trouble and out of trouble. Always try to know the mayor of your city and the government of your state, or your island, or your country. Try to know other government officials also. To know them before you have trouble is to get help when you're in trouble. Not to know them is to be at a disadvantage when you brought before them. Always treat them courteously and friendly, even if you don't mean it. Always let them believe that you're friendly. If you are to be a leader in your community, this even make it more imperative that you know everybody of political consequences, because you have to oppose them, not only for yourself or for the organization, but for the members of the race who look up to you as a leader. You must never sell yourself to the politician. Very important message. You must never sell yourself to the politician. Let me underline this. Very important. I know Sawindok is here. Some of us who are becoming politicians or interested in politics or have a political experience, I think this is a very important message to us. Okay, let me just stop that comment. So, Sawindok, the message is very clear. Never sell yourself to a politician. And he goes ahead to say, you must get around him the most skillful manner. Get all your rights, and the rest of others dependent on you. Out of him without selling yourself to him. Keep him in office, especially if he is not a good man in the community. Always make your vote count for bringing about the reforms you and others think are right for the community. And never exchange that your vote for money. You should see that every citizen has a vote. Every citizen that has a vote does vote on an election day, especially when you have reforms to be enacted. Sawindok, what can you say about that message?
Ash, to sell yourself to a politician is to sell your soul, and that is to sell your ideology. And many a times, politicians have got conflicting ideologies and objectives. So the idea is that you and the next politician's ideology and objectives will differ. But should you give in to another politician, that is as good as abandoning your own fight. Thank you.
Mr. Ama, what can you say about that message? Mr. Ama? Hello, Mr. Ama, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, because I'm always struggling to oh dear, where am I? To take it off of what do you call it? Yeah, sorry, I was on mute, so my apologies. Yes, again, in fact, this whole section on leadership is very good, and important. You should never say. Can you hear me? What's going on here?
Yes, Sister Ama, I can hear you. Brother Window, can you unmute yourself? Mute yourself, Brother Window. Sister Ama, please go ahead.
Yes, what he says about not selling yourself, I would widen that out. So not selling yourself to the politician, but also for our politicians, not selling themselves to other influences in the world, and also not selling the interests of the people. So what we currently experience in Africa is that the interests of the people, the land and the resources are being sold or undersold, and then the little what is gained for them is siphoned off by the leaders. So that bit about not selling yourself, and I would widen it out, not selling yourself, not selling the interests of the people who you represent, not selling the resources of the people that you represent. And the important thing for leaders is that they have to always remember that they are representatives of people. They're not leaders just for the sake of it. They are there to represent the interests of the people. So that is also very, very important. And we have to understand the importance of the vote, because the vote is not just about you vote a leader in and then you go to sleep, and then that leader thinks that they could do anything. They have to constantly be checking back to ensure that they act in a way that reflects and represents, I cannot emphasize that word enough, represents the interests of the people who voted for them. And then,
Brother Pigeon, Sister Ama, General Anunnaki, do we think there's a figurative meaning to that statement, never sell yourself to a politician? Or is it as literal as it can be? I'm just trying to think. Thank you.
well, for me, there's also a double meaning to it, because it's talking about, because we ourselves should never sell ourselves to a politician. And one of the things which we see can happen around the time of elections is that politicians will attempt to buy votes, and attempt to buy votes really for just for peanuts. So dashing a few benefits here, a few, sometimes it will be financial, sometimes it will be this. And so we ourselves should never say, you see it sometimes. In fact, in Ghana, there was a time when a leader tried to buy people's votes by handing out bags of rice. But on that occasion, the people said, no, you can keep your rice, when we will vote as we feel is right. But that doesn't always happen. So sometimes votes are bought by leaders. So it's a very, very important message, and particularly in the current period, very important message. I have finished.
Thank you.
Yeah, General Anunnaki, what do you think? But I think there's another message here. Marcus is saying that to vote is to make the attempt to share in the government of the community. You should never be a politician's slave in a community, because others will take advantage of you. Always cast your ballot for good government. Never support a corrupt government. General Anunnaki, what do you think about that? Raspala.
It's very complex, because personally, I don't think voting is going to help. But I do understand the context of this text, that always cast your ballot for good governance. But the problem here in South Africa specifically is that votes are rigged by this IEC, just like what happened to the EFF previously. So I don't know whether corruption can supersede this issue of voting. But what I do know is that if we're talking about voting for the right people to lead our communities, that I can agree upon. But if we're saying going to vote for this politician in national government that are working with the whites, it's a waste of time.
General Anunnaki, you're trying to say there's no good government anywhere to be voting. Because Marcus says that if you vote for a good government. Don't just vote. Vote for a good government. So does it mean there's no even good government worth voted for? And when you talk of good government, it means people who form a government.
No, I think even Garvey himself, he knew that voting.
I beg your pardon, Brother Pigeon. How can I be, sorry to interject, how can I be voting for a good person or a good government if I'm corrupted? In this time of hardships, I'm corrupted with bribes. How will I vote for a good government.
No. Indirectly, Marcus is telling you to be a good government by yourself first. Indirectly, Marcus is telling you to not be a corrupt person. But he's telling you to look for those characters out there. He also tells you the lesson not to be of the bad character.
I'm a good person if I'm enlightened. What if not?
And sometimes, by the way, those who are even in the villages who might appear not to be enlightened are more good than those who think they are more enlightened, probably, because sometimes they still maintain their own ways of life. But yes, your argument and your position is also having some point to person. And I think as we'll be coming to the end of our class, we still have around 8 minutes to go. I'd like us to focus on the last part of the message Marcus has for us. And I request you, if you have time, please read this message of Marcus, because a very powerful book and a very powerful way. When no one can remember Marcus, if we choose to remember Marcus, is by following his word and by living by his word, because that's the greatest thing we can do. It's sometimes not prudent enough to remember a person as was a good person and a good preacher and preach good things to you, not preaching in terms of even gospel, but good things to you, but you yourself, you're remembering them by not following their word. So the greatest gift sometimes to give is to remember the person. So I will end our today just briefly by what Marcus tells us about our self-initiative. And Marcus says, every man is his own responsibility in life. Nature never made anyone dually, but singly. Therefore, you have your single responsibility. The purpose of life is to live it fully. Hence, the single life must be complete, and in fact, it is so with every man. Therefore, it is the duty of every man to fall back on himself for what he wants. It is necessary for every man to use all of his faculties for his own protection. He always has a reserve of self-expression and action upon which to fall to protect and to defend himself. Therefore, he must develop his faculties to do things thoroughly for himself. He must rely upon himself first for initiating all those things that may contribute to his personal well-being. Whatever he wants to do should first come from himself, as he should know what is best for himself. Advice may be helpful, but only to the extent that you have a reason and judgment enough to see the value of advice. Otherwise, it may be harmful. Very few people, if any, who advise others do so completely honestly. Generally, they advise with a motive for which the individual must pay the price, whatever the price may be. Therefore, the best individual policy should be that the individual develop in himself or herself the courage to do things on his own or her own account, always counting on the cost and the benefit of the bad result. That will be our last message to Marcus for today, or for Marcus today. Sister Amma, what can you say about this and your general view as we bring this to an end? I thought that as people are trying to celebrate Marcus in more traditional way, we should celebrate Marcus by remembering his word. What can you say, Sister Amma? I know it's a short of this, but is the last word you take from here, Sister Amma? Sister
Yeah,
Amma?
it's I will just say generally it's been very useful to look at this section. So thank you very much for organizing that. Thank you.
Thank you. General Anunnaki, as we bring this to an end, what can you say about Marcus Garvey and some of his message, and what do you think you can say as a last word to this?
Yeah, but I will say that Marcus Garvey is one of the great prophets of Black people, and he is one of the practical Black leaders who propelled us as the Black nation in the world into another generation and another step. So, us today, what we need to carry on to the future is the blueprint of how we came about to be in this stage of Pan-Africanism from when our forefathers had started this in the 1900s. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother Sawinok, what can you say in general as we bring this to an end? I know it's been few of us, but I think it's also been very useful for us. Sawinok?
Only if we honored our prophets would Africa be the Africa that we want for generations to come. The problems with Africans, we don't trust ourselves. We don't honor ourselves. We don't embrace what we're doing because our minds are deeply colonized. We see the others, most specifically whites and Arabs, as demigods. And we tend to believe and trust more what they are doing, emulate what they are doing, and trust what they are saying. If Marcus Garvey's message, if Kwame Nkrumah's message has sunk in same time, real time, Africa wouldn't have waited for 2063. Because Marcus Garvey have prophesied way before the class of Kwame Nkrumah. We didn't listen. Kwame Nkrumah has prophesied. We didn't listen, but we are quick to listen to the Caucasians. We need to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, and Africa is the best place for everybody around the globe to live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Comrades, to me, I'll say that let me share first of all with you this book so that you can carry a copy with you before you leave here. At least for the memory of Marcus Garvey. Commit yourself to at least read something, even if it's a page per day, as Marcus has advised us, so that forever you'll internalize the words of Marcus, the message from him to us, and not only to internalize the message, but at least you can walk the talk of what Marcus advised. It's not easy, it's very tricky and hard, but it's the best gift we can give. And to me, I'll say, the word of Marcus is that fear God and know no other fear. No other fear. So thank you very much, comrades, and I really appreciate your time, your contribution, and all that you've done. I've shared the book, and please feel free to download it, do your best to read it. Next week, we'll go back to our usual defeating the dictator. But I still believe that maybe there's a need for us, once we finish that book, at least also to study some of this book that Marcus has for us, because I believe he has a very useful message to us. But this is upon us if we feel it's right to study the thoughts, the message for Marcus Garvey to us as a people. It means a lot to me. It meant a lot when I read this book the first time, and it changed a lot on how I look at my leadership and all that I do. So without much ado, and without taking much of your time, thank you very much, and may you have a lovely evening to you all. Bye-bye for now.